Hi, our second app is an URL shortener. So you must have encountered this situation where you are actually browsing and there's something which you want to share with your friend or a colleague, and that link is so large that when you copy and paste it and send it over an social media app, it takes in like three it's Hi, in this video we will be making an URL shortener app. And the reason for making this app is because we have on our day-to-day basis encounter situation where we have to share some resource with our friends or colleagues in our office or at home or maybe at a college or a school. Now the problem arises when the URL that we are sharing is too large. When it's too large, it can get really complicated, and sometimes when you share it, it's a huge URL, and it's really cumbersome to actually send it. First you have to select the whole URL, then you have to copy it and then paste it, and when it goes it's a long URL and it doesn't look really good. So that's the reason we have created this short URL shortener. Okay, so what it does is it takes an input which is actually a URL and long URL, and it shorten it, and then it gives us. We can actually copy it, paste it, and share it, and it works as if it's like similar to what the long URL does. Okay, now even sometimes when we want to tweet something or share it on social media, there is a limit to the number of characters we can actually send at once. And what if the URL you are sending already has some maybe let's say 60-70 character? It can really get difficult to send such, and it can get really difficult to send such URL in just one tweet or maybe one post. Okay, that is the reason. And most of the time when you go to social media, maybe Instagram or Twitter, what we see are short URL. Okay, when you click it, it's just 5-6 words, that's it. So that first 5-6 character, that's it. So now we will start creating our URL shortener app, and we have discussed why we are using it, because it's really handy. You don't have to actually log into a site or sign up somewhere to actually shorten URL. What you have to do is just click on your app, enter the URL, and copy the shortened URL. That's it. Simple, easy, and also it can be used on several platforms like Android and Mac and Linux and Windows. That's it. Windows. So let's start creating our app. So let's first check how our app looks like. So our app looks something what we see on the screen. So we have this label, okay, which is that this app is a URL shortener app. Then we have this widget, okay. This thing actually takes the long URL, okay. We enter the long URL here, and when this is the button. We click on it, and this some process runs in behind the background, okay. Process in background, okay. Process in background runs, and we get a short URL. Okay, what is that process that runs in background? The process that runs in the background is basically an API call. Okay, what it is? It is an API call. So what process runs in the background? It's nothing but an API call. Okay, so there's an API which is available in a GitHub repo, and using that API we will shorten a long URL that has been provided to us. So let's begin without wasting time. Now we are on our dashboard, and we have created this main.go file, and within that file we have written the basic template, that is main package. Then we have written this import, and we have actually declared a main function, although it doesn't have any code and it doesn't do anything, but we have basically written the basic code. And within that we have actually written all the all the things that we will be requiring while to run our app. within the import, we have mentioned all the dependencies which we will require to run our app. And as we know that before writing any code in in Golang, the first thing which we need to do is go mod init, which actually creates an go.mod file, and after that we have to so now we are in our editor and we'll start writing some code. Okay, so the first line is package main. We have declared the package as the main name, main, and import. So anything which we will require, we will first will be listed within these within the import, and we have this main function. Okay, now before running any code, the first step should be writing go mod init and write any name. Okay? Let's suppose write main. Okay, go mod init. What this command does is, so let's write it. Go mod init creates an go.mod file, which basically contains all the dependencies that this our app will be using. Okay, we can see that we have already generated GoSum, and it contains a lot of dependencies that our app will be using. Okay, and after that we write go mod tidy, which basically lists all the dependencies inside the import and download. Okay, when we write go mod tidy, all the dependencies that we are actually using in our function will be listed here, and they will be downloaded if they are not present. Okay, let's so now that we know we have done the basic setup, let's start writing our app. So the first line is creating a new app, right? Creating a new app, app dot okay, so app, this line creates a new app. This is how we create a new app in Fyne. Okay, after creating a new app, we will create a window, and that window has to be in, basically it will be in it is a window which will be inside an app. Okay, so to w a dot new window. Okay, and within the parentheses we pass the title on the window. Okay, now we can see that we have created an app, we have created a window inside this app, and we have passed the title of the window. Now there are some error which we are encountering, and this is because there's something which we need to import. Okay, so we have imported the Fyne app. Now there is no error. Okay, the error that is W is showing error because it's being declared but not used. So anything declared in Go and not used, it shows an error. Now after that we can actually resize. We can resize our window. To resize our window, we write w dot resize, and within this we pass this syntax Fyne dot new size, and pass the parameters. Let's say base 300 or 600. Okay. 400 comma 400. Yeah. And then we will run show and run. Okay, now if we run this code, we can actually run this code, but what will happen is there will be a window, our app will run a window with this title will pop up, and the size of this window will be this. But we haven't written anything inside it, right? We haven't mentioned any text or label or anything inside it. So let's try to add something into it. So if you remember the UI, the UI was something like this. The first thing is a label, right? It's a label, then an entry, then a button, and then again an entry. Okay, this is the basic UI. So let's code the UI part first. UI. So what is UI? UI is first we will create a title. And this title will be an widget, and it will be new label. So we created a widget. We created a widget which is of new label type. Okay, and using this function, and inside this we can pass the string. Then short. Let's type short URL shortener app. Okay, and now we will style this label. Style one dot. The first thing is alignment. Alignment is Fyne dot alignment. That's Fyne dot align and center. The reason why we are getting here is because we haven't imported the widget. Okay, and so let's import the widget. Okay, in the console we will write go mode tidy. This will download all the dependencies which will require. Okay, so as we can see, it's finding all the module that will be required, and yeah. So we will writing Fyne dot align. So yeah, we have got text alignment. Yeah, this is what we are doing. And then after aligning, we want to make this as bold. Title one dot text style is something which we are looking for. Using text style, we can actually style the text. Fyne dot text style. Yeah, text style here, and within the text style, we basically have to pass. Text style is basically structure which takes Boolean value. Okay, so if you click, if you press Alt F12, we'll get the definition of this text style, which says that it has three. It is a structure which can take up to three values, which are bold, italic, and irregular, something normal. Okay, and there's another. So if we click on this Alt F12, we will get the definition of the text style, and we can see that the structure of the text style is such that it has three. When we click on the Alt F12, we get the definition, and we can see textile is in structure. Okay, it is just we have created a structure, and the name of it is textile. Sorry, the type is textile, and within it there are these are the three values, and each of them is of Boolean type. That is the reason we have passed bold is equal to true inside this. So we have created a label, we have actually aligned it on center, and we have made it bold. Okay, now let's try to now the second part was, what was the second part? The second part was creating an entry widget. Okay, something which can take input from the user, something in which the user can enter the URL. That is what we used to create. And so we will write this long, let's create long URL. Okay, long URL, and it should be widget dot new entry, right? New entry. Okay, so new entry, and again we will so within this new entry, you see we want to enter some URL, but what if there is no URL? We want a placeholder here, right? Placeholder. So long URL dot placeholder. What should be the placeholder? The placeholder will be enter long URL here. Okay. Enter long URL here. Then the same thing goes for short URL, right? Short URL, okay. And inside the short URL, what we'll write? We wish to write as placeholder short URL will be displayed here. Okay, here we will so we have created a title and long widget which can take a long URL. The placeholder has been set as enter long URL here, and this is the and there's another widget dot entry which can take and the play. So there's another short URL which is also widget dot entry, and here we have written the placeholder has been set as short URL will be displayed here. Okay, now instead of entry we can actually write multiple entry because we never know, yeah, how much long the short URL will be. Although it will be really short, but still we don't know how long it will be. And within and if you remember the UI, let's go to the UI. Within the before and after and before, in between these two widget entry, we have this button. Okay, so we wish to create this button. So to create a button, we write ptn widget dot new button. So we have created a new button, and what does the new button does? The first value is the text. Okay, and the second value is in function. And let's when the function when this button is clicked, it prints something on console. Button is clicked. Now we have created the UI part, but we need to declare it something, right? We wish to show it to inside the window, and to show it inside the window, what we're going to do is we will create a vertical box. Okay, see in UI, as we can see, it's a vertical box. This is the first row. In the second row, the first row has this title. The second row has the widget entry. Third row and button, and fourth row we have this another widget entry. Okay, so we will create a container. And what type of container we get? We wish to get an V box, and within the V box, we'll pass all the value that all the elements that we have created. So the first thing which we wish to pass is title, then the long URL, then the button, and then the short URL. Okay, this is what we have passed, and this will be okay, and we will set this container. We will set this container inside the window using set content. Okay, W means window dot set content, set something inside the window. What we need to set? We need to set this C. Okay, and then we will show and run. We will show the window and run the app. So this method does two things. Okay, show the window and run the app. Simple. Now let's try to run our code. There's some error here. What is that error? Could not import this. Why is that you could not import this? It has been imported, I guess. Go found. Yeah, it's imported now. And now let's try to, go run main.go. Okay, there's some error. This is not something which we require. We only require this. And let's try to import it manually. Go get okay. This should have been v2. Okay, this should have been v2. We were supposed to import widget container app of version 2 type. Now we will now we will write go more tidy, and this time it will all import all the dependencies of second version and not the first. Yeah, so our error are gone. Okay, this is not going. What does that mean? Means that why not problem? Cannot use texture value of bold, style bold. This is how we write bold, right? Okay, error is gone. There's an error while importing some fine. Go get now all error gone. Let's run our code. Okay, this now let's run our code. Go run main.go. So as we can see, our app is running. Okay, and we can see that yeah, the first line is the URL shortener, which is basically the title. Second is we can see the placeholder inside this widget dot entry, and in this widget dot multi entry. This was multi-level and multiple line entry, and this was single line entry. Okay, but we have this placeholder as we have written in our code. So we got this placeholder, and we can write anything here. Okay, and the basic thing is we actually have to. So we will be passing in long URL here. Now, whenever the another thing which we need to note is whenever we click the button, you can see then the console something is written. Button is clicked is written. Okay, inside the console, button is clicked. Each time you click it, button is clicked, right? So this button is actually working. Okay, so we got the basic layout. We have this button, widget label, and this button is working fine. Okay, all we need to do is actually write some code to be able to process this long URL that the user enters here and get the short URL here. That's it. Okay, so we need to write the process part. So let's close our app and let's write the process that is involved in making this long URL short, and then actually setting the value of the second entry, and then setting the short URL. So now first thing which we need to do is take the long URL, and the second thing is processes to make a short URL, and the third task is to actually put that short URL inside the second entry. Okay, so let's code how we're going to do that. So we have this long URL button, and so inside the button we have to do something, because on the click of the button we want to convert the long URL into short, and for that we're going to use API. So I basically found a GitHub repo so found in GitHub repo, and which is onept.co API. Okay, so this API, what it does is it basically takes in required is in long URL. Okay, and it shortens it and returns the output. So the response is something like this. So we're going to use this API. Okay, and then we will try to shorten the long URL that the user enters. So now we are in our editor, and we will write the process so we will be using the API, onept API, to actually shorten the long URL. So the first thing which we will do is, let's just cut it, this long URL from here to here, and in the function we need to do something. Okay, inside this function, on the click of the button, this function runs and it does something. And what we want to do is, the first thing is we will make the URL dynamic. And how we will make the URL dynamic? The URL is this. Okay, this is the URL, and %s what. So we have used printf to, because it's a format. We can actually modify the value of this this string using the format specifier. So control S is basically a string will be replaced here, and the string is passed in as the second parameter, which is nothing but a long URL. Okay, your URL dot text. Okay, so the text in the long URL, okay, will be concatenated with this string at the end. So %s is nothing but long URL dot text, the text inside the long URL. So now our URL is dynamic. All we need to do is make a response. Okay, so to make an HTTP response, here what we did is made URL dynamic. Now we have made the URL dynamic, and we will make an HTTP response. So how to make an HTTP response? Nothing. We will use an HTTP. So there is this HTTP module which has this function get. Okay, and within this get we pass the URL. And what this function returns is a response and an error. Okay, now we don't wish to use this error, so we'll put an underscore here. Whenever we don't wish to use anything, we put an underscore here. So the reason we are getting this these error is because the FMT is not declared in our, okay, it's declared in net.ft, both are declared. Okay, then why are we getting this? Okay, it should be sprint f, sprint, not sprint f. Now res, we will use this res, and how we will use, so the first thing is we will be waiting for the body to close. So we'll use this defer keyword, okay, and defer keyword response dot body dot close. So when the body of this response get closed, then we will process something further. Okay, what will we do? We will read the, so the response has headers, it has bodies and several other parts, but we only require the body. Okay, so get the body of the response. Okay, how to get the body of the response? Simple. It's simple. We will use package.io.utl, and within that package we have this function read all. Read all. Read all. Okay, yeah, read all. And within this we pass the response. And what we get as an output is the body and an error which we will not be using. So we put an underscore here. Okay, the response, we got the response, we got the body inside the response, and okay, this should be response dot body. Now it's working. Okay, after this we have this body, right? We have this body. Let's print the body. Fmt dot println the body. Okay, let's try to run our code and see what happens. We have to we also have to use the long URL, right? We have to enter long URL. So we have basically went to the Pepcoding website. Okay. We went to the Pepcoding website, and here we have found this long URL. So this is there's the resource module. This is resource page. Within this page, there's another section, online Java Foundation. Within this, there's a chapter. This is the chapter name, and this is the question, and this is the topic. So it's a long URL, right? And we will shorten it using our app. So we run our app. We need to wait for a while for our app to run. So now our app is running, and we can see that this is the heading. Then this is the we have to enter the long URL here. This is the button. This is here we get the short URL. So the long URL we have copied and we will paste here, and we will click on shorten. So the moment we click on shorten, we should get something in our console, right? We should get something in our console because we have written this line. We will get the body of the API in our console. Okay, so this is the body of the API that we got, and it seems as if it's a byte. It is in byte, right? We need to convert that into string or something, some another format which we can read. So this is working, right? We entered the URL, we clicked on shorten, the API got called, and it returned something. We got the response. After the response, we got the okay. So let's so this is working, right? So all we did was basically click on the click of a button. This API is called. We got the response. We got the body inside the response. We printed the body of the response. That's it. And the body of the response is of byte type. Okay. Now we have to actually we have to create structure to be able to access some. Now the data which is actually given by this API is of byte form, okay? And we actually have to use some form of structure to be able to access each of these data, and we have to use some structure to be able to use the endpoints. Okay, so we have created an so we have this website. We have this website dot app.quickttype.io, and using this website we have actually created a structure. Okay, all we did was copy paste the so we created a structure. And our structure looks something like this. Okay, so this is the URL shortener is an struct which has been created, and it contains these following things: and message short and URL of string type, and status is of integer type. And we will be using this function, this thing, to be able to use to be able to access the different endpoints that we got using the API. So here we will have inside the body we got the byte form, right? We will pass this here because this thing actually takes bytes, right? We got the response in terms of byte. This method takes byte, and using this method we can actually access different values that we have got inside the body of the response. So URL shortener is something we got, and we will be using URL shortener. Okay, let's print URL shortener too. URL shortener. Okay, we will not be using the error, so we put underscore here. Okay, now we have printed the body, and after the body, let's format it. This is the body, this is the URL shortener, and we will be using this URL shortener. And the way to use it, we will concatenate. Okay, so this is something I learned using the Git profile that I of 1pt.co. So what they do is, whatever you got in the response will be added to 1pt.co. It need to be added URL shortener. Not short. Okay, so URL shortener has 4 different properties, right? It has a status, it has message, and it has short and long. What we wish to get is short. Okay, this short URL here, and we need to concatenate with this 1pt.io, and then we will print it in our second widget. Okay? So fmt.println, let's print this t also. This was a short. Okay, let's slide the short, and then this print. Let's print everything. Okay, let's print each of these things, each of these structure we have. We have the status, message, short, long. Okay, using this URL shortener. We'll try to print everything. fmt.println URL shortener dot first is status, then comes the long, then comes short, and then comes the message. Okay, the message is before, and in each of them it should be actually fmt, not gmt, fmt. And we have concatenated this URL shortener.short with 1pt.co and printed it on our console. Now we also wish to print this t in our in the second entry that we have in our app. Okay, so we'll set the text there as t. The short URL dot text. Short URL dot text should be t, right? And then we also need to refresh the short URL. So next time we for the next time we no, run our app, there's no error we get. Don't get any error. It refreshes the short URL. Now let's try to run our code. It should work fine. So as we can see, our app is running. Okay, and let's enter an URL here and long URL here. So the long URL here will be, we copy pasted our Pepcoding website, and let's click on shorten. There's everything that will happen. Firstly, and t and short URL should be printed here, and also in console we should get some output, right? So this is the output we got. Yeah. So now our app is running, and we can see all we need to do is enter in long URL. So we'll copy paste in long URL, copy it in long URL from Pepcoding website, enter into this widget, Control V, and shorten. On click of the shorten, we wish to get an we should get an shortened URL here, and also in console we wish to get all the values that we printed here, right? Status, message, long, short, everything, right? So let's click on shorten, and let's see what happens on console. Okay, so we got in short URL here, right? We got in short URL here, and in our console, as we can see in our console, yeah. So as we can see in our console, what we got is, first we got the body of the response. Okay, this was the body of the response. Then I got the URL shortener. Okay, this part. This is what we got. And then the status, which is 201, message added, long, this was the past, this was the past URL, no, the URL that we sent, and this was the short URL, okay, EGLFC. So this line is the refers to this line, and then later on we concatenated with 1pt.co this short URL. We concatenated the short URL with this part, this string, and hence we got this output. So I hope the whole code is clear. We got 4 parts here. URL shortener gives us 4 things: status, message, long, short. All of them got printed. In the end, we printed the URL shortener.short with 1pt.co, and then we have set this t to the short URL .text. Okay, this is used to set the text inside the short URL. So this is how we have done it. Now, one modification that can be done is we can actually write it that here is your short URL. Here is your short URL, and we wish to print the URL in the next line. So we'll write this /n and plus t. Okay, simple. Now let's try to run this code, run our app again. So it was our current app. We will go run main not go. So we can see we have this our app running, and again we will pass an long URL. Click on shorten, and we will get, yeah. So what we got is, here is your short URL. This is what we texted. Here is your short URL, new line, and t. What is t? T is 1pt.co URL shortener.short. Okay, 1pt.co / URL shortener.short. And all these are the status, message, long URL, short URL are in the console. Also, let's try to copy this and actually paste it in a browser to see if it is working or not. So this should work. Okay, this is the URL we actually copied. This was the long URL. Let's paste the short URL here. Okay, this is the short URL. Let's press enter. And on click of the enter, we are being redirected to some page, right? We are being redirected to some other page, which is this page. Okay, so even if you enter this long URL or the short URL, we will land up on the same page, right? So, that is the reason it's really convenient to share such a short URL, right? This is okay. Instead of actually sharing this on any social media app, it's really it looks awkward, right? So always share short URL. They are better for understanding and for sharing purpose, and we can always use this short URL app that we have created to perform this task. And most importantly, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. You can use it on any system, and you don't even have to open the browser, check for a URL shortener, nothing like that. So that's so now we have created the URL shortener. We will integrate this URL shortener into the main OS that we have already implemented. So now we will integrate our app into our main OS. So the first thing we need to do is create another file, show URL shortner.go. Okay, this is the app, and we will copy paste our code into this file. On copy pasting, there are few things which we have to take care of. Inside the main Go, we have to create another button. Okay, this will be button 6, and let's what this is an URL shortener, so we will short. Okay, and we will add an icon. We can actually add custom icon, but as of now we are center computer icon here. Okay, and here on the click of this button, we wish to run our short URL app. So it has been passed my window. Okay, now before actually just declaring this, we have to declare button 5, right? We can't. So we actually did we? So it should be button 6, not 5. It should be 6, and this should be. You have to create another widget. This should be 6, right? And show URL shortener should take in window. Okay, should take a window because my win is a window. It should take this window, the window created by this main file. Okay, so we will not be using this thing, and we will be commenting all this stuff. So title, we won't be created. Neither we will be resizing our app. And we will, for the first thing, the most important thing was to change the app name to your and accept an window. So the window will be a Fyne.window. Okay, and instead of running this app, we will just show our app. We will not run, and this container will not be set into this window because this it will be set into this thing. Okay, yeah. Sorry. So there was some, yes, this line, new border bedrock container. Okay, this was same as this. Same. Okay. C will be passed here. There is no error. Okay, everything looks fine. No problem here. Bitcoin, and neither there is any problem here. Let's go to the main Go file to see if there is an error, any error. No error here. Okay, now let's run our OS. So as we can see, so as we can see, our OS is running as expected, and we have integrated both these app, Bitcoin value and URL shortener. So let's test these both these app. So URL shortener, let's enter a long URL. Let's click on the shorten button, and it should shorten a long URL. Okay, we got this URL. We can actually copy it and paste it and see whether if this is the shortened URL or not. Then we also created this Bitcoin value app, which basically gives the value of Bitcoin in different currencies. their name, description, and their rate in float type. And we have this text editor, which opens a new window, and we can actually add, open, save, do several things. Gallery to look up several images into a directory. Okay, this app is really okay. We can see, look at this. All these are the images in the directory, and we can actually show the images here. Then we have this calculator. Okay, so we can perform calculation here, right? Use an error. Okay, it also returns history. Okay, so it returns of both the calculation that we did previously. Let's close this. Now the weather app, it gives us the information of the weather, wind speed, temperature for different cities. Okay, purely, and this is the home page. So we have developed both the app and integrated in our console. Now we can actually improve our UI of this desktop by creating adding custom icon, putting this tray on the bottom and placing it the center, and on the side we can write space layout dot spacer. There we can take an horizontal box, and that box can have three component. The first is layout dot spacer, then the icons, and the third is the layout spacer. So everything and all the icons remains in the middle. So this is for this video. Thank you.